Say clinical trials. This is in pharmacy. During COVID, a lot of people understood about clinical trials in a deeper manner. Clinical trials means if there is a disease, which is called as condition, you need to come up with new interventions, which are nothing but drugs. Interventions are called as drugs. What combination of drugs will cure a specific disease? What quantity of different drugs will cure a disease? For this, pharmaceutical companies do research and development. Certain times, research and development will go to 10 years, 15 years also. And after 10 to 15 years of research and development, paying the salaries, paying to the molecules, paying to the lab, experimental lab, which is tightly controlled. If that fails, if the clinical trial fails, it's going to be a huge loss to the pharmaceutical company. To counter that, this is a project which we have done to figure out what are the key reasons on why clinical trials fail. And we wanted to give that information to the various pharmaceutical companies. We've done this project for a specific pharmaceutical company long back while I was working with another organization. When we did not form this company, I worked with a company there. We have done this. Okay. What they do is when they believe that, okay, now the molecules combinations which go into your drug are good, they try it on mammals, animals, some kind of guinea pig or rodent on something they try out. If that's success, if they experience success, if it's successful, they then try it on humans who have that specific disease. If they're trying to cure asthma, they'll try it on humans who have asthma, breathing issues, palpitations, right? Your heart suddenly starts beating, right, for those kind of diseases, etc. And they see whether the humans are okay or not. Is it curing or not? To get those humans, that's called as human accrual process. You accrue. Accrue means you onboard them, you hire them. And if someone comes to any of us and says that I'll pay you $100,000, would you be okay if I inject new medicines on you? We're just trying out whether it works or not. In the due course, there might be a lot of side effects, or worst case, you might die. But I'll pay you $100,000. Would you be okay? And how many people would be okay with that? If you're not okay with $100,000, I'll give you $200,000. But I'll keep injecting new drugs on you because I want to test whether it works or not. Would you be okay? So it's a very difficult task to get people, right? Volunteer to be involved in that particular clinical trial. Then you have stage 3. If stage 2 is a success, they move to stage 3, wherein they give it to humans who have other diseases also, like someone with asthma and diabetic. If I'm giving medicine to cure asthma, the diabetes value should not go up, should not counter impact. If that is also a success, they try it on larger audience, larger humans. If that is also a success, then your Food and Drug Administration body of that specific country will approve. US FDA is worldwide recognized. US is a big market. They have stringent rules. People say that they don't do a lot of malpractice, which happens in probably other locations. So it is highly valued. This is on the face of it. That's what we all know, right? So we'll stick to that. Under the current, what happens, under the hood, what happens, we don't want to get into those political discussions, right? Anyways, if US approves a drug, that means a lot of countries will accept it with confidence. Then your doctor will prescribe you. Whenever you have that kind of disease, doctor will say, hey, this medicine is approved, right? Let me write this. Doctors also want to play safe. But you might get some rashes. It's not foolproof, right? Certain patients might get some rashes, some side effect because of that medicine. They'll again go back to the doctor and say, doctor, I started taking this medicine and see, I have new rashes, new side effects. I'm unable to sleep, whatever. That by law, doctor is supposed to enter into an application where adverse events are captured for the drugs which are in market. If many doctors are saying that, hey, there are a lot of side effects, they'll remove that from the market, that particular drug. That's how it works. These are the various stages of clinical trials. What we have done is we have resorted to something called as clinicaltrials.gov. If you want US FDA approval, your clinical trials should go into this. So let me click on this. Let me search all studies. Now we have 444,000. Back then when I've done, there were roughly 160 odd clinical studies completed. Not yet recruiting. I'm selecting 3 different variants. Let me download that as XML file. Only if you download as XML file, you'll get more details. Is it not selecting? Okay, fine. Anyways, let me download. So you have clinical trials, which came up. And here, this is how it would be. Condition means disease. Intervention is the procedure or the drug which is given. And you have combination. This is semi-structured data, XML files, right? So in this way, you will get the data. You extract all the relevant portions and you analyze. So we have done the data cleansing and we got the relevant fees. We segregated that as structured data, unstructured data. Structured data means directly if you get, for example, this, you'll have a column called condition, and then in that you will have the condition, and then you will have different, fields where you have more text. That would be called as unstructured data. Okay, so we segregated as structured and unstructured. Then we performed word cloud and sentiment analysis on unstructured data. And we wanted to find out what were the reasons for clinical trials terminating. We used all these techniques, term frequency, inverse document frequency, and all that. And when we have done this analysis, we have done a uniword word cloud. And the words which are bigger are used more number of times. But here, the one word that was catching our attention was safety. Safety means because of safety reasons, our clinical trials are failing. Then we have done a dendrogram. Dendrogram is something that is part of clustering. When you have different words and you have the numbers, how many times each word appeared, so on and so forth. When you have this kind of a data, you can find the distance. Clustering is all about calculating the distances. Anyways, then you'll get something called as dendrogram. Here, I have the word accrual, I have the word enrollment. But accrual means getting the patients. Enrollment is also related to enrolling the patients for the clinical trial. I have those 2 words here. The slow is connected to these 2 words. So slow enrollment, slow accrual are the reasons for clinical trial getting terminated or failing. So clinical trials are terminated because of slow enrollment, slow accrual. That's the story that I can build by looking at this portion of the dendrogram. In that way, you have to analyze this. We analyzed. But this word safety was catching our attention. So we thought, let's do a bigram. And when we have done a bigram, low enrollment, low accrual, slow enrollment, these words were catching the attention. But there was another word, safety concerns. Okay. Because of administrative reasons, because of safety reasons, clinical trials are failing. And because of lack of funding, also they are failing. New insights I got. But then, when we have read it in the context, what do you mean by reading in the context? We opened that XML file, did a Control F, searched safety concerns. Then we were surprised that in 100% of the samples that we have analyzed, it was clearly written that there were no safety concerns. If we would not have read these words in context, we would have got a wrong reason, right? Clearly, we would have got a wrong reason. And how did we get to know the right reason? Because of doing that context reading. Open the file, raw data, do a control F and search and read the entire sentence. Then you'll be able to figure out whether it was truly because of safety concerns or not. Okay. So just because a word is appearing maximum times, you cannot take it for granted until unless you read it in the context. Use your common sense. Okay. Certain meaningless word might be having a bigger font. Certain meaningful word might be having slightly smaller font. So you need to spend significant time on this to figure out whether it is right or wrong. Okay. Whether the word being used is in the right context or not. You need to read it in the context. Okay. That's how you do. And you can also do clustering. There is something called as k-means clustering. You can do a Scree plot. This Scree plot is also called as an elbow curve. And wherever you have a bend like this, like that, that means those many clusters you need to run without getting into the nitty-gritties of how it works and deeper explanation. This is what it is. And we figured out that, okay, maybe we can do 2 clusters, and we have done 2 clusters. For each cluster, we have given an explanation on what that cluster is talking about. This is a project that we have done for one of our competitors. While I don't like them, because when we have done this project for them, they weren't truly our competitors, but now they are our competitors. But nevertheless, this is a project that we have done for them. We are anyways not naming them, not an issue. So we have taken all the student feedback and social media comments, tweets, all of that, and we have done analysis. We have collected the data from 31st March 2015 until 22nd June 2017. And the first thing that we have done is an analysis on the mix of positive and negative words. Any organization, when it starts, it'll be difficult to get into the positive zone. At the word go, it's difficult because there'll be a lot of processes to set up. Certain processes, people who are working in that process might not do a good job. But for the outside customer, it's the organization which has to be blamed, right? Not the process. That's how they look at it. So, but eventually over a period of time, negativity should reduce and positivity should increase. That means if positive words are represented using green color and negative words are represented using red color, then red should have decreased and green should have increased. But for us, when we analyzed, we figured out that there was a equal mix of green and red. We were like, is this company really doing well, or do they have some really bad issues going on? Then we have looked at polarity score. Polarity means how positive or how negative a specific word is. 0 means neutral word. If someone says your training is bad, you'll have a you'll have a line towards the negative side. If someone says your training is worst, you'll have a spike like that on the negative side. If someone says your training is good, you'll have a line towards the positive side. If someone says your training is excellent, you'll see a spike like that. And you see that there is healthy and more number of positive lines over there and less number of negative lines. So this at least gives comfort level that, okay, while there are equal number of positive and negative words, positive is more positive than negative. Then we have also done something called as semantic analysis. Rather than reading all those 5,000 odd feedbacks, a few feedbacks per pages together, rather than sitting and reading all those and making a note on the book on what good or what bad students have spoken, we have done this semantic analysis. Here, this part was highlighted. I mean, when we have read this, this is what we thought was an area of interest. Kindly issue or provide the certificate for those people who completed the course. This was one area of concern. Another thing was, faculty or instructors have good experience. They are clearing the doubts of the students. This is one theory which is going on. So as opposed to reading all the 5,000, 6,000 feedbacks, when you look at this semantic network, it's easier to understand what's going on, etc. Right? So it makes life very easy. Okay, we can do dendrogram. As I've told you, dendrogram, the distance, how close, how similar the words are, is given using your y-axis. Staff is good, staff is excellent. Those kind of things were coming up. We have done a unigram. We have done a bigram. Right? We have done negative word cloud. We have read it in context. Problem. The moment you look at that, what sense can you make? But when we have read it in the context, students wanted more practical problems. They wanted solutions to the problems. Otherwise, okay, there are a lot of problems. That's a thought that you get. But when you read it in the context, you rectify it. We have also done a trigram. Kindly issue certificate, haven't received certificate. These were a lot of issues coming. We have done segmentation also, and we figured out that 7.5% of students were writing about book and class and things of that kind. 13.6% were talking about certificates, didn't receive, please issue certificate, things of that kind. 78.85% of people were talking about trainers and things of that kind. Training material, certificates, training quality. That's how the percentage split was. We have also done emotion mining. Not just how many positive, how many negative, and how many neutral words were there, but we also wanted to look at how many of them were joyous, how many of them were sad, how many of them were angry, were scared, surprised, disgusted with the training, all those things. The good part is a lot of them were talking positively and a lot of them were joyous. And we have also done something called as emotion valence. Valence is once again a score to measure the emotions. Okay. When the company started in March 2015, there was a lot of negativity. Then, then by May 2015, they took some decisions which eventually took their company into the positive zone. They experienced positivity throughout. And in April 2016, suddenly they started experiencing a dip. Then again, August 2016, it started picking up. Then they experienced that positivity. Then again, by March 2017, they experienced that negativity. So we gave them this. We told that, okay, what good thing you have done here and here, here and here is something that you can figure out. What went wrong here and here is something that you might want to think about because it's your company, you know better. And accordingly, you can take an action is what we told here. So that marks the end of the two use cases that we wanted to understand. So we understood the text generation sources, bunch of examples, use cases, case studies, which I was personally involved, right? And these are not some bookish examples that I've given. These are all projects live real time, which I was very much involved, hands on. I was writing the code as well. Then we understood about how your data can be taken and how it can be cleansed, how you can do tokenization, vectorization, and the various applications thereon. Okay. Now what we will do is we didn't learn about extraction methods. We didn't do that, but we know that there are libraries such as Beautiful Soup, etc., which can be used, requests, etc., to be which can be used to extract the data from social media. That's one thing which is left out, which we would anyways do. Okay. And I love playing cricket, so I put there. This is what Brian Lara all-time great of West Indies, had to say. I fell in love with scoring a lot of runs. I never felt 50 or 100 were enough. You fall in love with Python, not the snake, right? With Python programming language. And trust me, you would love to keep writing lines of code after lines of code. But as a data scientist, you should fall in love with only a few lines of Python code, not all the lines of Python code. Okay. That's because as a data scientist, you are going to solve a business problem. And it so happens that you use Python because you cannot use book and a pen to solve business problems. But you should not be becoming a Python programmer eventually. Eventually, you need to become data scientist. That should be your aim. That should be your vision, right? Okay.